All right, happy Wednesday, everybody. We've got Lexi Boegel here talking about her. It's a client spotlight. We're talking about her journey so far with TLF. Um, Aside from that, though, before we kind of get rolling, Lexi, how was your day?
Uh, it was okay.
All right.
Stressful work day, but good.
Yeah. Stressful work day. Did you get a workout or anything today? Did you get a walk in? It was nice outside.
I didn't, I've tried to really take advantage of the nice days lately, but
It's
work
nice.
just rolled over into the evening. And then I did get out to clean our patio for a party we're throwing Saturday. So,
There you go. There you go. It was super nice out.
well, don't tell me that. I didn't leave the
You
house today.
you were on the patio.
Yeah, at like I'm out there power washing at 6 o'clock at night.
Oh, that's when it was. Power washing.
I'm
I
the
got
crazy neighbor who's power washing in, 50-degree
Yes.
weather.
Yes. Well, I know what you're doing on Saturday, but nobody else does. What are you doing on Saturday?
Yeah, so we are throwing a gender reveal party. We are finding out whether or not we are having a little boy or a little girl.
No, I'm going to tell you right now on the call. I'm just kidding. I don't
What?
know. I said no.
Oh,
I'm going to.
I was like, we don't know yet. Nobody knows yet. So,
Yeah, I know. Uh, when is Nicole supposed to find out?
yeah, you lucky dogs will technically know.
I won't know. I told her I was like,
Okay.
don't let me know.
Yeah,
I
so she'll know. I'm gonna bring the stuff over Friday after she gets off work.
Oh, okay, cool. So they just give me like a letter or something.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna take like a card with an envelope, have them seal it, and
What did
then
you?
we're doing a balloon pop.
A balloon.
So she's got to go. They send it with both color confetti,
Yeah.
and so it'll be on Nicole to like put the confetti in the balloon and go get it filled.
All right, that makes sense. Well, I'll make sure I'm not in the house while she's doing it, or at least not paying attention. Um, all right. Well, cool. Well, that's exciting. I'm excited to celebrate with you guys.
Yeah, we're very excited.
I'll be happy either way. It's gonna be super exciting.
Same.
Well,
We
cool.
said so long as everyone's healthy, we don't care.
100%, 100 fucking percent. Um, is that all you guys are finding out? Because is there anything else that you can find out with that?
No, so we actually opted. You can earlier on around 14-ish weeks, you can do like genetic testing
Mhm.
that will kind of give you a rundown of various like they test maybe slightly positive for this versus that.
Oh, okay.
And I opted, and Brad and I kind of agreed
Yeah.
that was almost too much information for me personally. Our doctor was like, "You're young, you're healthy.
No
I
reason to
don't,
do all that.
I
Yeah.
don't feel like you need this unless you really want it."
Mhm.
And I wasn't really, truthfully, like dying to know the sex at that point. So it just felt so quick. And now, of course, I'm like chomping at the bit because 14 weeks versus 20 weeks isn't entirely too long of a wait.
Yeah, that's a long way.
Um, but yeah, no, for me, the results of genetic testing wouldn't have like changed the course of anything.
Yeah, so there's no reason
Y-
to. I get.
Yeah. And truth, I know too many people that like got a result on the genetic test and then stressed for six
Oh yeah,
months.
yeah, that makes
And
sense.
then their baby was born totally healthy and like
Oh,
ended up not having
oh,
um,
okay. Oh, so
any of,
it's not even like 100% sure thing.
no,
Oh, okay.
even the sex is not 100%.
All right, that makes more sense then. Well,
Yeah.
then, yeah, I don't think it makes sense to do all that then.
And
Uh,
truthfully, it's
to
just
each
something
their
else you
own.
have to pay for.
That's true. That's a good point. Well, good shit. I'm excited to find out the gender though, and then I can start buying some shit for it.
Right.
Exciting stuff. All right, cool. Well, let's kind of dive in then to your journey with TLF, and then kind of how
Yeah.
we got to our conversation we just had with it. So, first and foremost, we did a client spotlight with your husband Brad a while back, and we kind of got some insight into kind of why you both got started. But from your perspective, why did you join TLF? Why did you get started? And then yeah, let's kind of start there.
Yeah. So a couple different reasons. One, Brad joined before I did, and I am the primary cook in the house. So it just made sense because I was already helping him with his meals and like his grocery shopping and stuff. So it just made sense. Kill two birds with one stone. We both benefit, and then we're not doing this weird like juggling. It just made sense. And then truthfully, I just needed a little bit of I've always been a healthy eater. I've
Mhm.
always been active, but I just needed kind of a really structured regimen. I needed someone to basically be like, here's what you're going to do for the next however many weeks,
Yeah,
just to kind of like take the brain power out of it. It's all stuff that I know how to do.
yeah,
probably more than the average person. It's just like I wasn't applying any of the reserved time or energy that I had, I wasn't applying to that space.
That makes sense.
So to have you be able to send like a meal plan and even workouts, like nobody here knows, but my background, my degree is actually in athletic training. So I went to school for sports
We should have
medicine.
started there. I
I
missed that.
know,
I missed
I
that.
know.
Well, pause.
So
Give us that little bit of background real quick.
yeah, okay. So I have a bachelor's and master's in athletic training. I was a certified athletic trainer for 6 years at various different levels. I was actually Brad's athletic trainer at Murray State. That's how we met when I was in grad school. And so as
An
part of
illegal
that,
relationship.
what's that?
But it was an illegal relationship.
I mean, it was
Not
no big deal
illegal.
about it, so it's fine. Um,
And you're from San Francisco, born and
yep,
raised.
born and raised in California, Northern California, 40 minutes outside of San Francisco. So I miss bits and pieces of that weather, especially this time of year. And then, like I said, I grew up dancing and cheerleading competitively and playing softball and just being active. My family is a very, very active family. We're like
Health focus as well.
yes, yeah, we're like the people on vacation that land, drop our stuff, and like we're off doing something, going somewhere. So like I know all the pieces. It's just at some point your life gets so crazy busy that you prioritize where you want to spend your time and energy. And I was not spending the time and energy on prioritizing like food and exercise.
Well, especially the planning aspect of it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because you're just kind of just walking into the week without really any plan of attack, and then if you have no plan of attack, you're not really going to stick to a whole lot. I mean, I think everybody here, for the most part, has a basis, a decent understanding about the things they should be doing, the things they shouldn't be doing, but then putting it into action is the hardest part.
Totally.
That's a lot of the stuff is mental stuff. But I know, like Krista from TLF here is pointing out before, like she was just done making decisions. Like she's a teacher and things like that. So it was like,
Yeah.
I just don't want to plan one more thing.
Yeah.
I've had different trainers that have actually, worked with me as well. They're like, I do this shit for a living. I do this for everybody else. I don't want to do it for myself. And honestly, I'm kind of the same way as well. Like I like having a plan to follow. I still kind of do my own. I decide on my food, but then my coach is telling me macros and stuff like that to hit. It's just nice to not have to plan that shit for yourself. And that's kind of where you're at as well. Cause you're obviously very educated on all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, hey, here's a plan to go follow now hit it.
Well, and also it's one thing to have the knowledge, but then to also apply it to a point of here's the knowledge and here's the end goal. And it's the middle piece that so many people either don't have or don't want to dedicate the energy to. It's the what are the steps I need to take to get to that end goal? Yeah. And that's where the food and I can go to the gym 3 times a week and just do random stuff, whatever I feel like, or I can go in with a structured, push pull.
Yeah.
Type structure or, whatever we're working on that's going to ultimately cumulatively get me to the goals that I want. So
definitely. Well, good deal. So then, did you, aside from that, did you have any other reasons in kind of wanting to start this journey now, or was it more so just like Brad had kind of started and then obviously just wanting to get that routine down for yourself?
Yeah. So it started, I think, the Monday after my 31st birthday. Okay. And I knew we were probably in the next year. Well, we were definitely in the next year going to try to start our family. Mm-hmm. And so I also have struggled with body dysmorphia my whole adult life, not to the point where it like limits me in my day to day. It's just my own personal interpretation of my body versus what other people see. And so I knew with all the physical changes that come with pregnancy, I would benefit from getting myself at a really, really solid starting point so that, I wasn't going into all these changes with like, oh, I should have done this. Oh, I could have done this. Oh, I wish I would have applied myself.
Yeah.
XYZ. So I wanted to get myself in better shape physically, mentally, food wise, even. I knew, so many people, my mom jokes all the time about how she gained something like She gained a lot of pounds.
Yes.
She was pregnant with me just because
Yeah.
she thought it was a free for all. And then
Yeah.
once it was all said and done, it was like, oh crap,
I
now
got.
that's extra pounds I have to shed. And
Yep.
not that the weight gain is a good thing, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to give myself a better starting line
Yep.
so that I was more confident through the changes and I could enjoy the process versus having a not
Versus
so great
dreading.
starting point
Yeah.
and then just struggling with all the changes.
Yeah. No, that's I like the prep work that kind of went into that. I feel like not a lot of people do any prep work with like where they looking ahead of where we want to be at in a year and then working backwards. I feel like most people just aren't doing that, whether it's just not the time or nothing stimulating that thought process. But I'm huge on that in every way. Is like, hey, what does the next 4 or 5 years look like for you? And then where do you want to be at the next year, and then where do you want to be at now, so that you can be at all those kind of checkpoints. So it was good you kind of started that prep work, and I think it's safe to say that you definitely executed every one of your goals with that. You overcome some of those struggles a little bit. I think you were able to learn how to give yourself grace while maintaining, just treading water and just trying, controlling the controllables.
Yep.
And hopefully those are good tools that I'm sure you're utilizing to an extent right now, especially just giving yourself more grace and not being hard on yourself for different things. But then ultimately, whenever you're done and you have a baby and all that good stuff, then you at least have formulated this lifestyle ahead of time. Even if you kind of lose some of those things over the next 9 months, hopefully it's something that you can just get right back into. And, obviously the support of Brad doing that same thing as well. And then hopefully transitioning that, okay, now that the baby's here, we want to make sure we're doing this for that we're both healthy and we can both function and live, a long, healthy life. But then also the better our habits are now when that kid is actually, 4 or 5 or 6 years old and they're starting all their activities, they're also seeing mom and dad are living a healthy lifestyle. And
Absolutely.
I might be getting ahead of where we're going to kind of be going here in a little bit, but I think that's kind of, that's at least my thought for you guys. And hopefully
Yeah.
it's like you're kind of on the same page with that.
Totally. I mean,
Cool.
my parents were those parents, so I very much want to emulate being the really fit, really active,
Definitely.
really involved parents.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's made it so much easier for you to maintain some shape of that as you've gotten older versus never having seen that and then just trying to recreate it out of never knowing it.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
way, way, way harder to do that. So that's great. They did that for you, and now you can just continue to pass that down generation to generation. Any missteps they might have had, now you can correct some of those things, and we can continue being better for them. Well, so here's kind of my next question is that, you aside from us just being friends and whatnot, but once you got pregnant, some people, I've worked with people through part of their pregnancy. Some people I've been completely hands off. I'm like, hey, come back to me as soon as you're done. Or they've said the same thing. You've stayed more so checking in and just being more mindful. And that's kind of what I recommended you do, is that, because we still want to, just because our weight's going to be going up, we still want to make sure that our mental game is staying in check. And I'm sure that's very difficult, something that I'll never get to experience, to do while you're pregnant and stuff like that. But so why have you stayed at this point then? Like, and what are you trying to get out of it at this point?
So it's more so, like you said, it's the mental game right now. Like being able to feel like I have a reason to make good choices throughout the week, whether it's food or anyone on here who has had a baby, or if you're ever planning to have a baby, or will find out, pregnancy, you can go in with a plan. And Marcus can tell you this. Before we got pregnant, and I think even really early on, I was like, I'm going to be active. I want to, and then all of your energy just gets sucked right out of your body. And all you do is sleep. And it's different for everyone. It is a crazy wild ride. And so you really have to go in with like zero expectations and just see what you can do.
Yep.
My activity level right now are as many walks I can get in during the week. And that's it. And I've had to kind of take a step back and be like, but we're still active. We're still applying good habits. It's just not throwing weight around at the gym.
Yeah.
And it's shifting what I need right now.
So making it a priority, which is awesome.
Yes. And what I was getting to is having those check-ins Thursday that hold me accountable to be like, hey, here's how I showed up for myself this week. Because right now I'm not on a program. I'm not on a diet plan, really. I'm still trying to be mindful of all the things that we learned, or that I learned.
Yeah.
through the cut, and then even through when I think we were increasing
We just
macros.
started reverse dieting and
Yeah.
calories.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
boom, here we go.
So, I'm really trying to still apply food choices, number one, and two, just even like when I do make a meal, I try to really apply the same ratios. I'm not tracking numbers as far as macros right now because weight
It's better
gain
if it's, I'm sure. Yeah.
is more important.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just
Probably listening to your body, right? I would assume it's
yeah,
just like sometimes I'm not hungry, sometimes I'm nauseous, sometimes I have an appetite, and hey, I'm going to eat during this time. Uh,
yeah,
and I'm sure because you struggle a little bit too with like protein at the very beginning, right? Like getting in like cooked meats. Was that it?
yeah. So the first trimester was brutal. I ended up losing almost 6 pounds, which was not planned
Yeah.
because I was terribly, terribly nauseous and had many food aversions. Could not touch a vegetable with a 10-foot pole, which for me is very strange.
Yeah.
I like if I wasn't such a down home steak and potato kind of girl,
Yeah.
I 100% could be a vegetarian.
Yeah.
Like fruit and veggies are my staple.
Yeah.
So the fact that I wasn't consuming vegetables was
Wild. Yeah.
weird in and of itself. And then on top of it, protein was really hard. It smelled bad, it tasted bad, and there's still some of that going on. So it's really very fickle, and
Mhm.
you just kind of have to like ride the waves.
Yeah.
Eat when you can, and like
Yeah.
you said, listen to your body. Just try to give it whatever
Yeah.
it needs. I had a period where I was feeling really guilty about some of the foods I was reaching for.
Yeah.
And there's this saying that people either who have kids or will have kids here, and it pertains to how you're feeding your baby. um, but it's fed is best, whether you bottle feed or you breastfeed or you do formula. However you feed them, making sure that they're fed is
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
you know and so I was like, why is it that we have that conversation but we're not focused on mom when she's growing that baby?
Yeah.
Why aren't we giving ourselves the grace to just be like, okay, so I ate boxed macaroni and cheese
Yeah.
tonight. That's okay because
Yeah.
I still fed us.
Yeah.
So
Better
I
than
had to kind of do that mental work to be like, take a step back. You're doing what you need to do, even though it's hard.
yeah. Yeah.
And so I've stayed just for like you and I have had those hard conversations where
Yeah.
you're like, give yourself grace,
Yeah.
do what you can, and show up in the ways that you can right now, and it will change and it will shift and it looks different now, and it will look different you know
Yeah.
after July too.
It's
And
very, very, very fluid. And you
yeah,
just kind of got to roll with it because otherwise it's just adding stress onto your plate of shit that you can't control anyway. So you might as well just, enjoy the ride, enjoy the sweet moments, and then, get through the down times, the nausea
totally.
and stuff like that.
Well,
Uh,
and truth be told, like your whole control the controllables has just been like an ongoing motto in my head through this process, is like,
yeah.
I maybe can't control what I'm consuming right now,
Yeah.
but I can control, you know,
One,
my
and
mental game for the day, or I can control my sleep maybe.
I was going to
If
say,
I'm controlling one piece.
if your body's asking you to rest, it's important that you go rest
Yes.
and to not be hard on yourself for that. You've got, this a whole different version of, whenever you have holidays here, and I'm huge on, hey, enjoy yourself. Like we don't work our asses off all year long so we can work our asses off on Thanksgiving and Christmas, stuff like that. We want to enjoy those times. And if you control all the weeks and months for the most part leading up to that, then those few days aren't going to make a big difference. Kind of same thing. If you're looking bigger picture of the entire course of your life, hey, you smashed it, the 6, 7, 8 months leading up to you getting pregnant now, and you had a healthy lifestyle before that anyway, but then you just even really honed in on it. And that doesn't mean that has to go out the window
Right.
once you have the baby, but during this time, get through it, enjoy all the special moments of it all that you're going to have. And I know that you're good about being present with that and appreciating all that stuff. So that's always good. So the next thing, so let's kind of go back then, because obviously we just kind of talked about some of your current struggles.
Yeah.
Let's back up a little bit. So lifestyle wise, like you said, you were always mindful of what you were doing before, but really no plan of attack. Then kind of once you got started, what were some of the struggles that you had? So you got started roughly May, June-ish time, and then leading up to the time you got pregnant, what were some of your struggles that you went through during that time?
The biggest struggle I remember going through was during the cut phase. I love to cook. Like genuinely cooking brings me so much joy. And I like the freedom of being able to cook what I want, how I want, when I want. And I use fresh, like I'm not cooking unhealthy foods, but in a cut phase, as I think everyone here knows,
Yeah.
it's just very, very limited. You know what I mean? Down to the oils and the sauces and the spices that you're using, you have to be super mindful. So I really struggled in, I also love variety in my foods and my menus.
Yep.
And so eating the same like 2 or 3 meals for weeks on end was
Tough.
brutal, but I just started to figure out ways that like either I went out and found new recipes that I could apply or tweak to where it would fit the macros, or I think the key for me that we figured out was I would go in like once I figured out the
Macros.
snacks or the foods that I had to have and was like non-negotiable to get rid of, I would go in and basically build my macros at the start of a day before I even consumed food so that
That's
I could
awesome.
figure out exactly, what I could eat in that day to stay within my macros, but also feel like I was eating the things I still enjoyed eating. Um, so that was the biggest
Huge.
struggle, and then kind of the answer to that.
Yeah, no, that's huge that you were able to do that part, figure out the macro part, and that's one of the reasons why I'm huge on people putting a little bit of time to figure out the macros. I know when I first got started doing it, 12 years ago or so, I was irritated with it. I was like, I don't want to do all this shit.
Yeah.
Literally, once I did it for just 2 weeks of consistency, and I started kind of figuring things out, figuring out the discrepancies of macros and stuff on MyFitnessPal. Once you get through that initial frustration, I don't want to take the time to do this, then you learn pretty quick with it. And then that's to me where the sustainability part comes in. Not that you need to track your macros forever, but let's say you see the scale going up, you're getting a little bit softer, you're not feeling as good, maybe your energy's down, maybe your whatever's going on, and you want to reel things back in. That's one of the easier places to start, especially once you know that, hey, this is what macros worked in the very first place, so I can at least give myself a starting point with that, and you can figure it out. And then you can also learn that exactly what you said, that flexibility with it. I get a lot of people say that same exact thing. Like, is once we get into that cut phase, and again, that's not, living in those calorie deficits is not a way of life. Like, you shouldn't
No,
be
it's not easy.
it's a
It's meant to be
tool.
hard.
It's a means to an end. It's a tool to get what we want when it comes to body composition. And ultimately, yeah, we can be flexible, but up to a point. And then once calories get to a certain point, there's only so much we can do. We can change up proteins, we can change up the veggies that we're eating, the fruits that we're eating. But outside of that, you don't have a lot of flexibility with it. And the great thing with you is you're a good cook and you know how to cook things differently. We got a lot of people that don't know what the hell to do in the kitchen. I know minimal, but I know a decent amount, enough so that I could be, have that variety that I want sometimes. But that's just it comes down to that as well, though. And you've got to be focused on those goals during that time, because also you don't want to be in that time for a lot longer, and people end up hurting themselves because they fuck around for a couple of days out of the week, and then they try to water, and we're like, well, we're still in this cut, like you still have a goal you want to reach. It's
Right.
just a little bit more discipline. But then ultimately, like I said, that's not the long-term goal with that. Just since you mentioned that, though, anybody who's listening, if you're not watching right now, you're not gonna be able to see this, but I'm gonna share my screen real quick. So I've mentioned putting together a little recipe book thing. So I'm gonna share my screen real quick just so you can see this, Lexi. Anybody else is watching, let me hide this shit. So I got this meal planner that I'm building out right now,
I love it.
the female one. So just different, starts with like breakfasts, lunches, dinners, snacks, and then I'll explain like how to actually efficiently meal prep and stuff like that, and try to make it as clean as possible. So like, here's breakfast. So, a couple different protein shakes on here. That's pretty easy and straightforward. And then like this one right here, tasty eggs, use a normal egg meal. Here's a spicy hash meal that you can make as well for breakfast. And I'm still adding on to that. And then you get down to like lunches. Here's tasty beef soft tacos. And the cool thing with this is like, so if you're on a low carb, it tells you exactly what to do for the low carb. So here's all your ingredients you want. But if you got to do a low carb day, okay, then here's what you're gonna have to eliminate from this meal. So you can still have the meal, you're just gonna have to eliminate a couple different things: moderate
That's
carb, high
awesome.
carb, and then if you're on a lower carb, a lower fat diet as well, here's how you can make that adjustment. So I'm really excited to keep on adding to that. My goal is to, how the hell do I? There we go. Stop share. Perfect. My goal is to get at least like 5 meals on each of those things and kind of
Yeah,
finish it out before I start posting it out to people so people can use that. But I think that'll be a big help for people. Um,
totally.
but like you said, though, sorry to get off on that tangent, but like you said, it comes down to you just took your time and figured out the macro tracking side of things, and that opened up the doors about what you could do. You were still limited, but you had more room with it. And just, I think that the fact that you could choose what you were doing
Yep.
helped a lot more
Oh, totally.
than just,
Again, just feeling like it was almost like I created the freedom that I needed. It wasn't a lot of freedom, but I just
no.
needed that little extra something, whether it was, I don't remember. There were certain snacks at the beginning that I was like, I really just don't want to cut this food out. And like my idea of a snack, even now in pregnancy, like I live for my midday snack is an apple, and I eat half of it with a little piece of brie and the other half with all natural peanut butter.
Nice.
And like, it's the best thing ever. So
Yeah.
my idea of snack isn't necessarily to go grab a bag of chips, which is fine sometimes
Yeah.
too, but like when you are counting macros, foods
Yeah.
like that take huge chunks of your those early cut macros. So
Oh,
you just
definitely.
knew
Yeah.
like, okay, where am I going? What don't I care about as much so that I can still have that thing that I love?
Exactly. What I like about it, and I feel like just like with anything, extremes can be. I mean, anything can be taken to an extreme. It can become a complex and things like that. But I like it because it teaches you, like you just said, to prioritize what matters within your diet. Like the things that I really want to eat, like I'm going to prioritize those, and that helps you eliminate the shit that doesn't that isn't worth your macros, isn't worth your calories, whatever the case is. Like you just said, both everything you said was super healthy stuff. I mean, you're eating a little bit of cheese, you're eating a little bit of peanut butter and then apple. Like there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But again, just being, once we get down to the nitty gritty of, hey, the scales is only budging so much. I want to give you high carb days, have it on those days, but the lower carb days, you just got to cut that shit out and be, tunnel vision on what it is we're doing. But then once we start reverse dieting, that's the beauty of it. And that's what a lot of people miss out on, is that, number one, if you come to me and you're trying to cut, like that's what I'm going to help you do. But you've got to be patient enough to do that back end of it, which is the reverse dieting, which is to get your calories up so that you can add in fucking 2 of those apple snacks a day if you want. You can
Yeah.
have more of that type of stuff because you've revved up your metabolism and you've done it the right way. And you can do all that while still looking and feeling all the same ways that you already were. It's just a matter of getting to that point. We obviously just got started on it, so we never got to really see it full. But right now, hopefully you're enjoying all that stuff as well with it. And then,
Well,
do
it,
what?
like I said, it made me conscious, like because I was so structured about the foods that I was reaching for and grabbing, or that we even had in the house
Yeah.
for 6 months
Yeah.
before pregnancy.
Yeah.
I a lot of those habits have maintained to the point where, like, obviously I'm not denying myself. I'm
Yeah.
believe you me, guys.
Yeah.
I think I had a banana milkshake like 3 nights after dinner last week.
That's delicious.
You take some, you win some,
Yeah.
but or you take some, you lose some.
Did you
But
make it or did you go out and get it?
what's that?
Did you make it or did you go get it from somewhere?
I'm getting them from Andy's, but
Oh,
I'm a weirdo about banana flavored anything. It has to be fresh
that's,
banana.
yeah, yeah, real banana.
Yeah, otherwise I could care less. So
Yeah.
getting some potassium in there, but
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
um, even like that's my vice, and I'm like, one, I need to. It's funny. I kind of feel like a wrestler in high school. I need to make weight. There's
Yeah.
so much weight you should gain in a week, so I'm like, I'll be like, well, I got to make weight, so I'll give myself the milkshake.
The
But
little
during
banana.
the day,
Yeah.
my food choices are still a protein and a veggie and rice,
Yeah.
or an acai bowl for
Yeah.
breakfast,
Yeah.
a smoothie for breakfast. They're still basically what I was eating as we started to
Yeah.
reverse diet. So
That's good. That's good. I'm happy you were able to get back to that as well, and not have to just struggle through no appetite or shitty
oh,
appetite
that
throughout.
was brutal, man. That was something else. Well, even last night, what's weird too is now I'm in this thing where, and it's happened once we were out to dinner with you guys, and it just happened to me last night. I'll be eating a meal and it'll be really tasty. And then all of a sudden, one bite, and you're like, and I'm done. Can't eat that anymore. And both times it's been fish. So, take that with a grain of
Yeah.
salt. But you're so sensitive to smell and taste
Yeah.
and everything that there's such a quick turnaround where you're like, okay, I'm
Flip
done.
of the
No
switch.
more.
Yeah.
Or you're like running to the trash can.
Well, I'm excited. I never have to be pregnant. So there's a plus for me on that one.
Yeah. Guys, be kind to your ladies is all I'm saying.
No, yeah, no doubt on that. No freaking doubt. Appreciate all y'all do. But all right, cool. So then in terms of goals, obviously your goal is to have a healthy pregnancy right now. But then what does life look like after the baby? Now, obviously, there's a lot of unknowns. There's a
Yeah.
lot of figuring out a new schedule and things like that. But ideally, what does that look like? Let's just say that, I mean, good sleep, bad sleep, whatever the case is. What is that kind of that post pregnancy life look like? What are your goals after that?
I think for me, I at this point, we're now halfway into this process, the fact that I've been able to roll with the punches of food, but also always come back to solid choices. I'm not worried about the food aspect. And truthfully, the food is what comes easy to me.
Easy. Yeah.
It's the physical activity piece. It was the first thing to go when I got real tired and
Yeah.
fatigued.
Yeah.
And your strength and your whole body changes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of conversation I know for postpartum women on like pelvic floor, depending on how delivery and stuff goes. You might be starting at what feels like floor -5. You're doing really minimal movements based
Yeah.
on how your body
Yeah.
ended up responding to delivery. So I try not to have big goals. I am famous for being that person who hasn't been to the gym in like a month, and then I'll go hit the gym for 2 hours and absolutely murder my body to where
Okay.
I'm like a stiff arm,
So
like I
that's
can't
something you
get
want
on
to
the toilet
avoid.
the next day.
Yeah.
I've done that. I've been that way my whole life. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna get in there and
Yeah.
get right back to it.
Yeah.
It's terrible. And now being in my 30s, I can't do that as much as I used to because I will actually hurt myself.
Yeah. No shit.
But I definitely, there's like, for me, I think it's going to be more of a mental, like really prioritizing the mental game of one, showing up for myself, but two, having lower expectations of what I can do right out the gate.
Yep.
Because I know myself, I'm going to want to, the second I get cleared, be in that gym and be on the treadmill and
Yep.
be shedding pounds and just getting myself back to feeling like myself. And more times than not, that's probably going to be a process. It will be
Yep.
a timeline versus like a quick get
Yeah.
in, get out.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I'm trying to like work on the mental expectation now so
Yeah.
that when we get there, it can be like, okay, what steps can we take, big or small,
Yeah.
ultimately get us down.
Yeah.
Goal.
I think you said it perfectly with your expectations, and I feel like really that can be that's a high priority for anybody at any given stage that they're in, is understanding like where you're at and what are the actual like realistic expectations you should have for yourself. Because I mean, so many here are struggling with that mindset thing, and one slip up, you feel like everything is ruined. You feel like I might as well just quit or whatever the case is. And I don't think that's necessarily your mindset, but at the same time, it definitely can be, because if you go into it thinking I'm going to go the full throttle,
Yep.
you're just setting yourself up for 100% failure in terms of you're going to wreck your body. Then you're not going to be able to go to the gym. Then you might even be hurt and be out of the gym even longer.
Right.
Or just the mental effects of, wow, I'm super weak, which go into it. You're going to be weak. At this point, if you're already not lifting weights and stuff like that, like, yeah, you're going to lose some strength with it, but it'll happen, come back quick with it. I think the basis, which you've already kind of mentioned during this, is you're maintaining that control the controllables mindset, and that needs to be that same focus coming out of it. And again, take everything with a grain of salt. I don't have a child. I haven't been a parent, but I still feel like even when that day comes for me as well, like controlling the controllables, it still has to be the name of the game. It like you said before, it might only be that, hey, I drank enough water today and I slept well. And if you can conquer those two things, that's great. And I think, I made a post about this the other day, is at the end of the day, especially if you're at the beginning stages, you're kind of going to be at those beginning stages, is at the end of the day, what choices did I make that I didn't want to do, but that I did anyway, like they were going to be good for me, and that could literally just be, I went on a 20-minute walk. Like that could literally just be, I was sitting in the drive-through at McDonald's because I had nothing prepped and I chose a healthy option and that seems like a silly thing, but for somebody who's struggling and they haven't really started making the right choices, you've got to celebrate those small wins and then try to build those up over time. And I think that's kind of got to be where your new baseline is as you get started. And if you can manage those expectations and just be consistent with what you're able to control, you're going to quickly get back in the groove of things over the course of time, which will definitely be huge.
Yeah. Well, it's funny talking to you about it. Like, I hadn't really thought about what that looks like yet, just because
Yeah.
right now it's
It's
like
always
one
on the
foot in
now,
front
which
of
is
the
good.
other. But like having answered just off the cuff and very truthfully, it's the same kind of mindset that I asked my athletes that I was rehabbing to apply after a serious injury or a surgery. You know what I mean? Like,
True.
we will get you to where you were, but you have to be patient with the process and you
Yep.
have to listen to your body.
Yep.
You have to, like, if you try to jump out of the gate, you're only going to set yourself back further. You
Yep.
have to, like, there's power in setting smaller goals in order to achieve the ultimate goal or the bigger goals.
Yeah, 100%.
um so yeah.
100%. Well, good. And then obviously, I'll be here to help out with whatever strategies. It could just be, for some people in that same situation is that, fuck, you might not have the time or the energy to go grocery shopping and meal prep. So let's set up an Instacart delivery. Let's set up,
Yeah.
meal prep delivery services. Like, will it cost a little more money? Yeah. But if that's worth you staying healthy, and also I don't have the time to do all this stuff, then let's figure out those solutions. And that's just where the communication kind of comes into play with it. Well, good. So I think that, and the good thing as well is that you and Brad are doing this together, and so he'll be there to help out in every way that he can. And whether that's you watch the baby so I can go get this workout in, or vice versa, whatever that kind of looks like. Same thing with groceries or whatever the case is. Just having
Yeah.
that teamwork and that partnership there.
I'm just gonna add something real quick. We
Yeah,
actually had
please.
early on in this process together, we had kind of one of those first moments that I think ended up setting us up better for this next phase.
Yeah.
Is we realized, so Brad likes to go to the gym, get in, get it done.
Uh,
Like, he doesn't want to be there a long time. He doesn't want to wait on stuff. I like to, that is,
you enjoy your time there.
I do. I enjoy being there. It's a way for me to it is the only way I turn my brain off.
Good. Yeah.
And so I'll go and I will like really dedicate. I'm there. I'm going to get in as much as I can
Yeah.
within reason.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I'm going to take my time to do it right.
Yeah.
And so we realized quickly, going to the gym together in the same car, not going to work for us because I feel rushed and he's pissed because he's like sitting waiting on me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, we quickly just decided we'll try to go together when we can, drive separately, and that way we can come and go as we please. But ultimately, like, that wasn't a big enough deal for us to need to go together
Yep.
for
And
either us.
the gym is really close for you guys as well, so that's nice.
Yeah, yes, which is lovely. But like you said, just changing maybe your plan of attack to something I've learned in this whole baby space, baby registry space, is register for the things that will make your life easier.
Yeah.
Even if that means paying a little bit more
Yeah.
within reason. Everybody has a different budget.
Yeah.
But I think to your point, the same thing applies, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't need to buy all the baby gadgets, but maybe we dedicate some of that money we would have allocated for that to Instacart or
Yep.
to a meal delivery service, so that,
we remove stress off your plate or time
yes.
that we don't have anyway. Like, I'll pay a little extra for that just because otherwise, like, you're struggling on so many fronts otherwise.
Yeah.
Then.
Well, I tell my already mama friends, remind them all the time, the best way for you to show up for yourself as a spouse, as a parent, whatever role it is you can't pour from an empty cup, right? Exactly. So you have to take the time, even though you might feel guilty, even though it might cost money, whatever it is, you have to take the time to make sure you're right so that you can best serve the people in your life.
Yep.
And so I think that perfectly aligns.
I'm excited for our mom's call that we're going to do here in April. I think we already decided the date. I don't know if I've shared it to the whole community, but you know what I'm talking about. I posted in the women's group
Oh,
on
maybe I
here.
did see that.
Yeah, so we're gonna do a mom's call here in April. I forgot the exact date off the top of my head, but I'm excited about that though, because what you just said, I feel like, I saw my mom and I mean, my friends' moms, and really, I feel like this is um, not just a mom problem. I think it's just as much a dad problem, but
Totally.
moms are
It's
more
it's
more,
a different.
more often the all star of the whole situation, especially at the early goings and stuff.
Totally.
Um, and I mean, you grew the baby, so you feel even more responsibility kind of right off the bat, and whatever that sounds like verbalizing from a mom's voice, obviously. But like you just said, though, you can only give your best if you're pouring into yourself enough to be able to give your best to other people. And I feel like that's where a lot of people kind of miss the mark. Even if you take kids out of the equation, even if you're just a single
Oh yeah,
person, if
100%.
you're not pouring into yourself, if you're not having certain boundaries in your life, then you're sacrificing what you can give to the world or to your career or to your friends and family and all that good stuff. And that's just not worth it. It's better to
Well, I
sacrifice
know,
time.
like in the parenting space, to your point, I think why I'm so passionate about it is because God bless my mom. She did exactly that.
Yeah.
She dedicated herself
Yeah.
500% to
Yeah.
being mom,
Yeah.
to the point where I think it shifted her whole
Yeah. Yeah.
identity.
Yeah.
And I can't do that. I just refuse to lose myself in that, because I saw, how it shifted and
Mhm.
changed as we got older.
Yep.
And I think, to your point, it is a conversation that's happening. And I don't think it was previously a conversation, which is also brutal. It became an unspoken expectation. But similarly, outside of the parenting space, if you're someone who doesn't ever plan to have a family or kiddos, it's, I think, work-life balance for anybody who ended up working from home over the last 3 years or is still working from home, that dynamic totally shifted. And it became really easy to be working at 7 or 8 o'clock at night because it's
Yeah.
there, and it'll make tomorrow easy. And it is creating those boundaries
Yeah.
for yourself so that you can better show up in all aspects versus just that one.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Well, it's good that you're recognizing that now too, going into it, so you can set yourself up for better success. It's still gonna be a challenge. I'm sure there's gonna be
Oh,
plenty of
totally.
times you're gonna have to remind yourself of that. But if you're going into it with the right kind of expectations and plan of action to an extent, that'll help a lot. So ultimately, though, I don't even think I need to ask this question. Why are these changes important for you to continue and improve further? Obviously, starting a family, we've already kind of said this stuff. We don't need to beat a dead horse, but do you have anything to add on to kind of what we've already discussed as to why this is important for you?
Um,
I'm always
other
looking for other sources of motivation. Like, why does this really make a difference in our life? Because if it doesn't, we're not going to stick to anything.
Yeah, I am a firm believer in, it's a very old saying, but a body in motion stays in motion,
Definitely.
and life gets busy, life gets harder. The more you add to it, whether it's a partner, or kids, or a pet,
Yep.
responsibilities, bigger job effort, whatever it, career path, whatever it is, life just gets harder. Life gets busier. The fittest I ever was in my life was when I was in grad school, and I literally went from the apartment to the weight room, got a 2 hour lift in, worked in the athletic training room or was out on the field, and then went home, made dinner, and did it all over again. I mean, it was so structured and so limited. I didn't have a social life. We didn't go to class. All of our classes were online. So, like, I could almost hyper dedicate myself to the four things that were going on in my life
Yeah.
right at
Yeah.
that moment. My life does not look anything like that anymore. And
Yeah.
so, going out of your way to apply things that will help you
Mhm.
show up for yourself, help you continue to make good decisions, continue to keep you accountable.
Yeah.
Um, I think it sets you up for success, even when things get hard, when shit hits the fan, as it always will. You know, even just being able to check in on a Thursday and be like, I dropped the ball because life has blown up in my face this week. That's okay, but having to say it out loud or
Mhm.
having to say it to somebody else
Mhm.
is almost a gut check to be like, okay, this week I dropped the ball. What can I do next week to
Yeah.
kind of regain even just the littlest bit of control for myself to make me better, to make me feel better. Um, so
Uh-huh.
that's
Well, it, like you just said, if you're forced to reflect on it, and that's you're getting kind of into the last question I was going to ask, as well as like, advice that you have for other TLFers out there, just started or whatever the case is. You've been with me for now like 8 months or so, about what's most important, and one of the things I think that you would say with that is those check-ins, because like you just said, and like I always say, the most important week to check in is the worst week that you have, because you're forced. Nobody wants to do that reflection. I don't want to do that reflection. Not that I don't know anybody who likes saying negatives about their week
no
and
one wants to fail. No
and,
one
and
likes to fail.
yeah, exactly. And so, but if you care about it enough, though, like you don't have to be hard on yourself. You don't have to make yourself feel bad and dig some mental hole for yourself. That's not what I mean about talking about the negatives from your week. Like obviously I want to talk about the positives as well, but if you had a struggling week, we need to dive into, okay, why did you have a struggling week? It you didn't just make bad food choices. Maybe you didn't have the right food on hand and ready to go at home. Maybe you didn't grocery shop, or maybe you grocery shop, but you didn't meal prep. Like there's a root cause thing to kind of what's happening with that. And then maybe the root cause to why you didn't go grocery shop and meal prepping is that you're losing sight of why this shit matters to you. And we need to dive deeper into that. And if you had a bad week this week and you don't address that, it's going to happen again. And then it's going to turn into a month. And before you know it, I've reached out to you 10 different times and you haven't ever responded because it's been a shitty time. And that's, what are we doing here?
Nobody's winning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, again, I've said this before, like that's the reason why I have a coach, because during this off season, I want to make sure I stay in check and I stay aligned with what my goals are. And just having that little extra source of, I've got a check-in day coming up and I want to make this person proud. I want to show up for myself and not be disappointed in what I'm writing down. And if I am disappointed in it, guess what? I'm probably going to do better the next week versus, hey, I don't want to check in because I had a bad day. Well, I'm probably going to have another bad day because of that then. But
Right.
so outside of that, then any other advice you have for current members or anything of that nature? How to be successful.
Well, I was just gonna say, kind of to piggyback off that last thought you had. I remember there were times when checking in with you and my weight maybe didn't go down as much as we hoped or we had planned or discussed, but the check-ins and answering questions allowed us to go, well, gee, Lexi, you had a crazy stressful week,
Mhm.
and stress actually causes a reaction for the body to maybe not drop weight because it's in that the flight part of fight or flight, right?
Yeah.
So like sometimes it actually helped me not feel as guilty because it painted a bigger picture than just like, great, the scale didn't change. It's not all about the number. So
Yeah.
I'd say my advice is try to always take a step back and look at big picture.
Yep.
That like there were weeks where I just plateaued and it was so frustrating. But when I took a step back and like looked at my progress, the little graph that you can pull up in your app,
Yeah.
I reminded myself where I started versus where I was
Yeah.
versus where I was hoping to get to. Even now, I'm doing it with my pregnancy weight gain. Like I still plug in my weight, even though it's weird to be literally doing the opposite of where we started.
Yeah.
It's one, giving me peace of mind
Mhm.
from, I'm doing what I need to do for myself and for, more importantly, this baby. But it's also helping me go, okay, where can I allow myself to enjoy this pregnancy craving type thing? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like again, there were weeks where I was dropping weight or are not gaining the weight that I needed to gain
Mhm.
per doctor's orders. So it gives you perspective that
No.
you don't get in your everyday unless you're keeping a
Yeah.
food journal or a weight journal, which sounds miserable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It gives you something to look back to and go, pictures never did it for me. It is just not,
Yeah.
again, it's not where my brain goes as
Yeah.
far as like where I see the benefits.
Yep.
It was, I went back through to some of my early check-ins and I would review like what were my goals? What were some of the answers I gave? and just remind myself where I started versus where I was, and where I was versus where I wanted to go. So I love having that.
That's
Even
cool.
like the little celebrations when you hit the number of workouts that you've
Yeah.
done,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
new PRs. I love a little like celebration, a little
Yeah.
mini win. And so having those tools built in, I think, and using them. Gosh, use your tools. That is my advice. Use the tools. They're
Yeah.
there for you for a reason. They just make life easier.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to make life easier.
Well, yeah, 100%. And it's always worth that little bit of extra work up front to figure out where those things are, to, figure out, like you said, learning how to track your macros so that you could have a little bit more control with what you were eating versus
Totally.
having to blindly just follow a plan. Like you said, with the whole progress types of thing is, when in doubt, zoom out. Watching like YouTubers talk about finance and stocks and that type of shit. They always say, when in doubt, zoom out. You can't just look at how is this progress over the course of this week. How has it progressed of the past 10 years? And kind of same thing with this as well. So that's good that you were able to review not just the weight, not just the pictures, but also what your mental state was then. What were your struggles then versus now. And to count up those small wins, like you said, just the little milestones you have with those things. Like you've got to, especially when you're down, you got to start, you got to transfer your thoughts into looking for the small wins. When it doesn't feel like you're having a lot of wins, you got to start being more mindful of that stuff, because chances are you're probably having just as many wins as before, but you're so hyper focused on this one thing that's not changing the way you want it to, that you feel like you're failing everything. And in reality, your lifestyle is in a whole different spot. You actually have energy now versus, and not necessarily you, but other people. Like you didn't have energy before you started focusing on this stuff.
Yeah.
Now you're pissed that your weight's not changing a whole lot, but you actually have energy to play with your kids, or you actually are sleeping better. Like you just, even if that scale doesn't drop as fast as you want to, you just added years onto your life because we got something in check.
Yeah. I remember long before my weight started shifting, my joint pain went away. I like was having chronic joint pain at night, which is just brutal.
Yeah.
And shift in food and diet helped eliminate that. And it was like, well, that in and of itself is
Okay. That shows you were likely inflamed as well, which is still kind of surprising, because I always know that, like, even if you weren't following a macro based or like, a better composition of your meals and stuff, you're still eating healthy meals, but that still shows that there's always room to improve. So it's crazy that you notice, joint pain going away during it, for somebody who's, a healthy 30-year-old essentially. But yeah, so look for those small wins. When in doubt, zoom out, look back at the whole package versus just what happened this week. Check in on the hard weeks. Again, like you said, some of the hardest weeks, I told you to give yourself grace because you needed to, and that you also could learn from those things as well, is that you learn why you didn't lose weight this week. Your body's already in a stress state if you're doing excess cardio or extra cardio, you're weight training, and you're in a calorie deficit. Like, you're doing all these things that are creating a stressful environment for your body. So then if you throw into, work stress or fighting with a spouse or having a flat tire, like all these other things are going to add up and push that stress to a level that, okay, now your body's not going to respond the way we want it to. So it's important that you checking in so you can learn these things. Because again, like, yeah, you can just follow plan blindly and lose the weight and whatnot. But if you're not really learning all the ins and outs of it, then it's not truly sustainable. All you're doing is just cutting calories, and then it's going to come right back. So yeah, it's important that you're kind of learning all that stuff. Well, Lexi, I appreciate your time. That I said before we started recording, I was like, this will probably only be like 30 minutes. And of course we talked an hour. Everybody that's on, Lily, Brad, Matt, Ellie, and Dexter, thanks for being here, guys. Lexi, anything else that you want to share? I'll ask anybody if they would have any questions for you, but otherwise, nothing else.
Yeah.
That's fine. You don't need to. I'm just seeing if you did. Anybody who's on right now, you guys have any questions for Lexi? Any thoughts? Anything like that? I'll take it.
Just nice job, and keep it up.
Hell yeah. I'm excited to see Lexi what how things transpire once that baby comes out, and kind of where life goes from there.
Yeah. It's slightly intimidating. I will say, totally unrelated caveat, it is a weird space to be the generation who's having their kids on social media. And I say that in like, I think we went from one extreme to the other as far as nobody was talking about all the stuff that was happening and like mom guilt and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And now it has shifted to where it's
Yeah.
like aggressive. And I love that people are talking about it, but in the same place, I recently told my mom, I'm like, if we knew how challenging any challenge in life was before we did it, before we committed to it, we wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel that way about this whole parenting thing is like social media is almost making it feel like it is just the worst, most impossible task. And I don't let myself go there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, good God. I mean, there's got to be joy in it somewhere, right?
Oh, there definitely is. Otherwise, you wouldn't have multiple kids with it all. Well, and ultimately, I just think about there's a world full of crazies out there, and people that are
They're all
not
on social
very
media.
very smart. Not saying that I'm super smart, but there's some people I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how did you have kids, and how are they successful or whatever? So if they can do it, you and Brad can definitely do it. Well, you can do it. Brad will be there to help. Just fuck with you, Brad. Well, cool. Anyway, I appreciate you guys being here as always. Tomorrow is check-in day, so get those check-ins in. I've been seeing a lot of good momentum from majority of us here. I've had some people kind of fall off, but I've gotten into some people a little bit over some text to get you guys refocused. So otherwise, though, guys, have a great rest of your week. Get out, enjoy the weather. Lexi, go on a walk, go get some sunlight, go get some vitamin D for you and that baby. And I'll see you guys on Saturday, and I'll see everybody else on check-in day tomorrow. Cool. Lexi, thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. See y'all.
Bye.